Hello tubers, hope you guys are doing well. As you can tell, I am out of the apartment and I'm back camping. Yeah, camping. Thankfully, I still have a place to camp. So life can't be too bad. So we're all hearing all the good news about the opening up slowly all around North America. And I'm wondering if it's going to be just like the end of World War II and that famous picture of the sailor kissing the lady in Times Square. Of course, they weren't social distancing, were they? But I'm suspecting that there's going to be a whole bunch of that kind of stuff and those type of pictures published in Life magazine and newspapers all around the world as we unlock, and we hope that we don't have a second or third wave, which obviously the virus is still going to exist and things are going to happen. To what degree? Nobody knows. So what can we do? Can we worry too much about things that we have no control over or little control over? Probably not, but keep washing the hands. So it's a rather hot day here in southern British Columbia. We're in the low 80s. We're hovering around 30 Celsius. And you would think that the pandemic is over because everybody's milling about and doing a few things probably that they shouldn't be. But I've been thinking about what is the future of the RV industry. And I'm sure a few of you are thinking about that too, because obviously there's many of us that the current situation isn't really affecting us, and we're able to put a bit of money aside and we can buy a few things that we might want that we actually don't need, because there's always a difference in life between wants and needs. And for a lot of people in the RV industry, in terms of people that buy RVs, a lot of them just want an RV and they don't need one. A lot of people just don't live in them, like I do, for example. And because of that, it begs the question of how many of these units are going to be sold when all this is over. And I'm a bit doubtful that the industry is going to be as robust as some people hope, for many reasons. First of all, the access to credit is going to be a factor, because let's face it, a large number of people finance their new RVs, and they finance it on what I call the never-never plan. Typically, a lot of the bigger units are financed over 20 years. And that's pretty much like a mortgage, because they can't afford to, cough up that $200,000 to $300,000 or $400,000 or even more to get into these units. And that's just the reality of the situation. So a lot of people's FICO scores are going to be beat up, which will make them ineligible for at least good interest rates, or maybe not even eligible for financing at all. Now, of course, we all know FICO scores are just an arbitrary human construct that businesses look at. They can lower the credit requirements and essentially create subprime markets for RVs, which inevitably is not really a good thing, because loaning money to people who aren't as financially able to service their debt isn't really a great idea. And I think most people would agree with me on that. And on top of that, there are so many people that own RVs that are essentially toys right now. And since I live in Canada, I've seen the boom and bust of the resource industry for years of my life. Generally, when things turn bad in many parts of the world, the toys go first. First go the boats, then go the motorcycles, maybe the quads, then the RVs. Because if it's just sitting in your driveway, it's just an asset that can be turned into cash to help you. Why not just sell it? Which will drive prices down if too many people do so. Is that going to happen? Hard to say, but I'm going to bet that it probably will. Now, it's like the Vancouver housing industry, where everybody that owns a house there, the houses are worth, $1.3 to $5 million. An average home's worth $1.4 million. Everybody's saying if you just agree that we won't sell at a lower price, the prices can stay artificially high. That's a great idea, and it would work if you could create a conspiracy for all sellers to refuse to sell. And refuse to sell at a cheaper price. But everybody acts as an individual, meaning that, for example, if I was in financial distress, which I'm not, but if I was and I wanted to get some quick cash, I could sell this. And if I sold it at a fire sale price, it would move quick and I'd have some cash in my pocket. And inevitably there are going to be people that will do that. On top of the regular phenomenon of older people that can no longer drive, they can no longer travel, they can't afford international travel medical insurance, they want to be near their doctor, or sadly they become deceased. And then their estate inherits their RV, and what do they want to do with it? Generally, they want to sell it, get some cash, and move on, because they don't want to pay to store it or maintain it. Occasionally somebody in the family wants to enjoy the RV and inherit that, and that's great if you can get an RV from your estate at a cheap price, or free even, great. But inevitably a lot of these RVs that are used are going to fall onto the open market, and if too many of them fall onto the market, the prices will go down. It's just supply and demand. The demand is now low, the supply will increase. As we know, many of the actual manufacturers have now shut down, if not almost all of them. All the big manufacturers in Indiana have basically furloughed their employees and sent them home. So there's going to be a bit of an inventory issue on new units. But it begs the question of how many people are actually looking for a brand new unit right now. I really don't know. So essentially the RV industry is going to be faced with a supply and demand issue combined with a credit crunch. So I really don't think it's going to be a robust few years coming up. Of course, over time anything can happen and things can rebound, but I'm not thinking it's going to be a very, very good, especially for new manufacturers. But there's going to be some great bargains for those of you that are sitting on cash that are ready to pounce. Just like I'm looking at a few things that I don't need, might want, I might be ready to buy a few things that I might need that people are getting rid of at fire sale prices. So I think it's probably the time to just be patient and wait, because things can only get worse in the short term before they get better in the long term. So be patient, keep your pennies aside, get ready to pounce, buy something you like, be a little bit picky. Be willing to walk away from some sales. If you're not too sure about the unit, walk away. There's going to be other units coming forward that you could buy that you might be more, comfortable with the purchase, or they might be in better condition. So patience is always a virtue in this type of scenario. A few of you may have even noticed that Camping World has beaten their first quarter expectations, so the stock rallied a little bit. Now, is that good news? Well, it's not bad news, that's for sure, but a little bit of lipstick on the pig of good news isn't really going to change the industry now, is it? After all, there still is a lot more bad news than there is good news when it comes to the RV industry right now. But I am hopeful that there will be a recovery of some sort, because domestic tourism always the first to rebound. And let's face it, if you can't take the family to France or off to Disney World, you're going to do something you can't afford, which is usually camping. So I am a bit bullish in the long term for the RV industry, but in the short term, I'm all bear. What else can you be? I mean, there's some serious fundamental problems going on with the world economy, and you can't just ignore that. But let's face it, RVing is one of the most affordable tiers of the hospitality and tourism industry. So, it's going to survive. But in the short run, would you really want to invest or work in that industry in terms of manufacturing or sales? I really don't think so. So what do you guys think about the future of the RV industry? Do you think it's going to be sunshine and lollipops and business as usual? I don't know. I've got my opinion. You've got yours. Put it down below and tell me what you think, especially if you're in the market for an RV or if you're somebody that's trying to sell, especially if you don't need it. Because if you don't need that RV and it's just taking up resources and you're maybe paying to maintain it or store it, time to maybe say goodbye to it. But it's a question of how much are you going to get for it. Is it going to be worth what you want, or are you going to be forced to sell at a low price? I don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So hopefully things all work out in the end, as they usually do. So in the meantime, folks, stay safe, keep your wheels in the ground. I'll talk to you soon.